For centuries, the Galactic Council had acted as guardians of order across the spiral arms. Their fleets moved silently through the stars, enforcing decrees, keeping balance, and ensuring that no younger species rose too quickly or too dangerously. Every new civilization was studied carefully, observed like seedlings in a garden, trimmed if necessary before they grew wild. And among the billions of stars, one small, unremarkable planet had long been under their watchful eyes. Earth. From their vantage points in orbit and their hidden outposts on nearby moons, the Council's observers had chronicled humanity's every step. They had watched tribes sharpen stones into blades, watched empires rise and fall, watched the clash of armies whose weapons grew deadlier with each century. They recorded the thunder of cannons, the roar of engines, the flash of atomic fire. To the Council, humanity was a puzzle. On one hand, they were fragile compared to most galactic species. Their bodies broke easily, they were brief, and their world was with wars they inflicted upon themselves. Yet again and again, they survived. It was this stubborn resilience that made the Council uneasy. Violent, unpredictable, yet endlessly adaptable, one report read. They rebuild faster than others collapse. If left unchecked, they may one day rival our strength. Still, humanity remained planet-bound for much of its early history, and so the Council was content to simply watch. The great empires of the stars agreed. Earth was no threat, not yet. But not all observers were convinced. Some whispered of danger in the shadows of the Council's grand halls. They spoke of humans who endured cold that froze others solid, who thrived in deserts that killed in hours, who tamed seas, mountains, and storms. They pointed to humanity's endless conflicts and asked, what happens when such a species finally turns its eyes to the stars? Patience became their policy, a quiet waiting game. Surely humanity would stumble as so many others had before. But then came the shift. In the span of a few generations, humanity leapt forward at a pace that every projection. One century they were grounded, bound to their single world. The next, they had stations circling their planet, colonies on barren rocks, probes reaching out into the dark. Their progress was chaotic, yes, but relentless. No Council algorithm had predicted such momentum. To the alien observers, it was unsettling. They had expected hesitation, stagnation, the usual growing pains. Instead, humanity seemed driven by an unseen force, some inner spark that refused to die. Perhaps, another report suggested, their very struggles have made them strong. Every hardship carved endurance into their being. Where other species collapse under trial, they grow sharper. It was a thought the Council did not like. And so discussions began. In the great halls orbiting a dying red star, voices of countless worlds debated humanity's fate. Some urged for intervention, to step in now before the species could fully rise. Others argued for patience, insisting that Earth was still too divided, too unprepared to matter. But beneath all the words ran a current of unease. For the first time the Council was not certain. To them, humanity had already noticed the shadows. Strange signals intercepted on deep space arrays, faint anomalies near the edge of their colonies, unexplained patterns in transmissions from the void. Human scientists whispered of being watched, though few dared to speak it aloud. And in secret, plans were drawn. Earth was no longer as the Council believed. Beneath their surface disputes and loud politics, a quiet unity was forming in hidden chambers. Leaders, scientists, and thinkers met in secrecy, speaking not of borders but of survival. They too had studied history, and they understood a truth carved into every human generation. The universe does not always welcome the unprepared. If someone was watching, it was not out of kindness. And so the watchers watched, and the watched prepared. In the dark expanse between stars, two wills began to circle each other. One sought to contain, the other sought only to endure. Neither side knew the storm that was about to break. For humanity had been tempered by fire for all of its history. And when the day came to unveil its true strength, the galaxy itself would fall into silence. The Galactic Council had decided at last, humanity must be brought into the fold. Not as equals, never as equals, but as a managed species, guided and restrained before their restless ambition carried them too far. No empire had ever refused before. The Council's word was law, and even the proudest civilizations had bent the knee when summoned. And so the invitation was crafted. On the surface, it gleamed with courtesy, a message wrapped in flowery words of friendship, of unity, of a chance to join the greater family of stars. Yet beneath its polished layers lay chains. Humanity would be permitted access to limited technologies. Their expansion would be regulated, their research monitored, their militaries dismantled. They would exist, but only as a junior partner, forever watched, forever contained. The Council believed Earth would accept. After all, what choice could they have? Alone, untested, still fragile among the stars, humanity would surely welcome the hand offered to them. The message was sent across the void, delivered in radiant beams of light that pierced the night sky and found their way to Earth's deep space arrays. For weeks, humanity deliberated. Governments gathered in secret sessions. Scientists decoded the Council's carefully worded promises, reading between every line, every phrase. They understood what was truly being offered, not partnership but submission. Across Earth and its colonies, the news spread. The message was debated on every channel, dissected in every forum, whispered about in every home. To some, it was tempting. After all, the Council promised protection, prosperity, a place among the stars. To others, it was an insult, an attempt to bind humanity's hands just as they were learning to reach outward. At last, a response was crafted. When it came, it was not with the diplomacy of soft words, nor the hesitation of fear. The humans broadcast their reply openly across the stars, ensuring that every listening ear in the galaxy would hear. The figure who spoke was not a single leader, but a chorus, representatives from across Earth and its colonies, their voices woven together. Their message was clear. We thank you for your offer, but we are not children in need of guardians. We will walk our own path, make our own mistakes, and bear our own burdens. We will not surrender the right to choose our future. If the galaxy cannot accept that, then so be it. The transmission ended. No pleasantries, no appeals, only finality. Silence followed. Across the Council's great halls, unease rippled like a storm. No species had ever spoken so boldly, so defiantly. Every empire that had once been approached had understood the balance of power. They had bowed, even if grudgingly, for the Council's fleets were vast and unstoppable. But humanity, they had simply refused. Debate erupted. Some argued it was arrogance, that Earth did not understand the weight of what it had done. Others insisted it was defiance, a dangerous spark that must be extinguished quickly before it spread. Still others warned caution, that humanity's refusal hinted at something deeper, something unseen. For the first time in ages, the Council was divided. Meanwhile, on Earth, a quiet resolve spread. The rejection of the Council's offer became more than policy, it became a symbol. In every colony, in every research lab, in every hidden base, people spoke with newfound determination. They had chosen independence, and with that choice came responsibility. Human engineers pushed their projects faster. Scientists dug deeper into experimental theories that had once been dismissed as impossible. Military strategists refined their plans, not for conquest, but for survival. The refusal had drawn a line in the sand, and they knew the Council would not leave it unanswered. Far beyond, alien observers recorded it all. Their reports carried a new tone now, less condescension, more caution. The humans had done the unthinkable, and no one in the galaxy knew what it would mean. And somewhere in the silent void between stars, fleets began to stir. The Council had given humanity a chance to bow. Humanity had stood tall instead. The consequences of that choice were coming, and the galaxy was listening in silence. The Council did not act immediately. Direct confrontation was dangerous, especially with a species whose defiance was still not fully understood. Instead, they turned to a familiar tactic, pressure. The first signs came quietly. Patrol fleets altered their routes to drift near human colonies. Mining stations on the edges of Earth's reach reported strange signals interfering with their communications. Merchant vessels claimed to be shadowed by ships that disappeared the moment they tried to confirm their presence. At first, humanity treated it as coincidence, the ordinary friction of a crowded galaxy. But then came the skirmishes. A freighter convoy heading toward the outer colonies was intercepted by an unidentified force. The attackers did not identify themselves, nor did they attempt negotiation. They simply fired warning shots, forcing the convoy to scatter. By the time human defense craft arrived, the intruders had vanished, leaving only drifting debris and frightened survivors. Weeks later, a frontier research station reported an intrusion. A small alien craft had slipped past their scanners, approaching dangerously close before vanishing into the void. No response came to their hails. The station's recordings showed nothing recognizable in its design, as though it had been built deliberately to obscure its origin. Human leadership understood the message. The Council was probing them, testing their resolve, their defenses, their willingness to fight back. Yet Earth did not retaliate, not openly. Instead, something else began to happen. The alien fleets that lurked near human space started to suffer losses. At first, it was subtle. A missing patrol here, a damaged cruiser there. Reports claimed accidents, malfunctions, navigational errors. But then entire squadrons failed to return, their last transmissions cut short by static. When search parties arrived, they found nothing but silence. The Council grew uneasy. Humanity lacked the strength to engage their fleets directly. By all estimates, their warships were still decades behind in power and design. And yet, ships were vanishing in the regions where humans lingered. It was as though someone was hunting them. Then came the first recordings. A Council scout ship, before its destruction, managed to transmit fragmented images, dark silhouettes moving with impossible speed, human vessels bearing configurations no database recognized. Their engines produced signatures that did not match any known design. They appeared and vanished like ghosts, striking with precision before fading back into the dark. Panic whispered through the Council chambers. This was not what they expected. Humanity should not have had such ships, not yet. By every timeline, Earth should have been fumbling with primitive fleets, barely able to defend its colonies. Instead, they seemed to wield technology that bent the very predictions the Council relied upon. Impossible, one delegate muttered. They do not have the resources, they do not have the time. But the reports piled higher. Whispers spread across the galaxy. Traders spoke of humans wielding weapons that disrupted enemy systems with a single strike. Smugglers told tales of colonies defended by fleets that appeared from nowhere, as if the humans had mastered invisibility itself. Each rumor grew more elaborate, but behind them lay a shared truth. Humanity was hiding something. In their observation posts, alien watchers grew uneasy. They had studied humanity for centuries, yet even they could not explain these developments. Had Earth uncovered ancient ruins? Had they stumbled upon technology from civilizations long vanished? Or was it something else? Something born from their relentless ingenuity. Among humanity, there was no answer given. Officials remained silent. Engineers offered no explanation. Captains who returned from the shadows spoke little of what they had seen, and when they did, their words carried the weight of secrecy. The Council pressed harder. More fleets moved closer, their presence no longer subtle but looming heavy with threat. Yet still, they hesitated to strike. For every day that passed, their uncertainty grew. Because what they feared most was not what they knew of humanity, but what they did not. The unknown had become humanity's shield. And in the silence of the stars, that shield was far stronger than any fleet. The Council's patience had worn thin. Months of uncertainty and vanishing fleets had created tension among the elder species. A decision was made, a show of force. A task fleet, the largest the galaxy had assembled in decades, was dispatched toward one of Earth's frontier colonies, a small but strategically valuable outpost on the edge of the Sol system. The fleet arrived under the cold gleam of distant stars, its ships moving in perfect formation, weapons primed, scanners sweeping for any sign of resistance. To the Council, this would be a simple demonstration, a warning to the upstart species that the galaxy would not tolerate defiance. What they did not expect was what greeted them. The humans were ready. From orbit, the colony's defenses erupted with precision. Energy shields flared to life, interceptors launched in swarms, and from the darkness, larger vessels emerged, their designs unlike anything the Council had catalogued. They moved with a fluidity that conventional tactics, slipping between patrols, striking weak points, and vanishing again. The first wave of alien cruisers was shredded before they could even understand what had happened. Missiles and energy beams were intercepted with uncanny accuracy, as if the humans could anticipate every move. Reports from surviving Council officers described it in stunned disbelief. They fight like predators, calculating, relentless, unyielding. They are everywhere and nowhere at once. And that was only the beginning. On the planet's surface, the human forces were no less formidable. Soldiers who had trained for decades in simulated wars now faced a real enemy with unfamiliar technology. Yet they moved as one, coordinated beyond what standard communication could achieve. Every ambush was preempted, every tactic countered. Alien boarding parties found themselves trapped, outmaneuvered at every turn, their superior numbers irrelevant against the humans' ingenuity. In the Council chambers, disbelief turned to panic. This was not merely defense, it was mastery. Humanity had taken the trial by fire and forged a response that no one had anticipated. Whispers among the elder species began to spread. "Perhaps we misjudged them," one delegate muttered. "Perhaps we underestimated what it means to survive everything the universe throws at you." Meanwhile, the humans did not gloat. There were no celebratory displays, no arrogant broadcasts. Their victory was disciplined, methodical, and strategic. Every move was calculated to defend, to survive, but never to provoke unnecessarily. Yet the effect on the galaxy was undeniable. For the first time, other species began to question everything they knew about humanity. They had seen a species rise from a single planet, struggling through disease, war, and disaster, and now stand unbowed against a fleet that could have crushed them effortlessly. One Council observer wrote in a report, "They are a storm contained within a fragile frame. Do not mistake their patience for weakness." Back on Earth, the leaders did not rest. They studied every engagement, refining tactics, improving technology, and preparing for what they knew would come next. Humanity's survival had depended on adaptation and now, that same instinct guided their path among the stars. The alien fleet retreated, battered and humiliated, leaving the frontier colony intact. Yet no species celebrated. No one rejoiced. The silence that followed the battle was heavy, filled with unease. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy realized that humanity might not be the species they had thought. And beneath it all, a quiet message had been sent, not in words but in action. Humans were no longer the creatures to be ignored, to be underestimated, or to be contained. The mask of weakness had fallen away. Now every species watching from afar understood a single, terrifying truth. Humanity's resilience, their ingenuity, their unity under pressure, all of it had been underestimated. And the Council had only just begun to glimpse the storm that had been building silently on a small blue planet. The galaxy would never forget the day the mask cracked. For generations, humanity had endured the impossible. Wars had torn continents apart, disease had claimed millions, and disasters had reshaped entire landscapes. Yet through it all, humans had survived, adapted, and grown stronger. That resilience, forged over, had now reached beyond Earth, beyond the limits of there, and into the cold expanse of the stars. It was time to reveal it. The Council had grown restless, convinced that Earth's victories were isolated incidents, lucky strikes in a universe governed by superior forces. They underestimated humanity's capacity for strategy, foresight, and coordination. And so, humanity prepared a message, not just a broadcast, but a declaration. Across the galaxy, screens flickered to life, transmitting the image of Earth's leaders standing together, representatives of every colony, every research station, every hidden fleet. Their faces were calm, their stance unshakable, and their words carried a weight that reverberated across space. "We are humanity," they began, their voices unified across every channel in every language, every dialect. For centuries we have been tested. Disease, famine, war, and disaster have all sought to claim us. And yet we endure, we adapt, we rise. The message paused, letting the truth sink in. And now you have seen only a fraction of what we are capable of. Our technology, our fleets, our tactics. What you have witnessed is only the beginning. We have learned from every challenge, and we have improved because of them. Alien species listened in stunned silence. The Council's monitors displayed every major civilization's reaction. Awe, fear, confusion. No one had spoken like this before. No species had ever broadcast such confidence and control. The humans continued. We do not seek to conquer nor to oppress. We do not wish to dominate. But make no mistake, we will defend ourselves. We will defend our homes, our people, and our freedom. Those who attempt to bind us will find themselves tested as the galaxy has never witnessed. They unveiled more than words. Images of massive fleets, warships unlike any ever seen, equipped with technology that seemed to defy conventional physics, glided across the void. Human colonies, once thought vulnerable, were revealed to be fortified beyond imagination. Strategic networks, hidden bases, and experimental defenses formed a web across the stars, demonstrating that humanity had been preparing for this moment for decades in secret. The Council's delegates exchanged panicked glances. Some whispered quietly, unable to hide their fear. They were stronger than we imagined, entirely unpredictable. Among the younger species, rumors spread like wildfire. Traders, smugglers, explorers, all speculated about humanity's origins, their rapid rise, and the hidden knowledge that allowed them to defy expectations. Some claimed humans had unlocked secrets of physics thought impossible. Others suggested they had discovered ancient technologies left behind by extinct civilizations. Whatever the truth, one fact became undeniable. Humanity was no ordinary species. Even within the Council, divisions deepened. Some argued that negotiation was still possible, that humanity's threat could be contained diplomatically. Others insisted that failure to act would be catastrophic, that no one could predict what a species so determined and so capable might do next. But humanity offered no immediate war, no retaliation. Their unveiling was not a challenge, it was a declaration of reality. They were not to be underestimated, they were not to be ignored. And as their final words resonated across the void, every listener understood the message clearly. We are here, we are enduring, we are prepared, and the galaxy must take notice. In the Council's halls, silence fell heavier than any gavel could impose. For the first time, centuries of control, of authority, of superiority were shaken by a single species. One that had once seemed small, weak, and inconsequential had now revealed its true nature. The storm that had been quietly building on a distant blue planet had finally begun to roar. And the galaxy, vast and accustomed to order, fell silent in the face of humanity's unveiling. The galaxy had never heard silence like this, not the quiet of absence, but the heavy, trembling silence of fear. Entire fleets waited in orbit, their commanders unsure whether to act or retreat. Trade routes slowed, commerce faltered, and even distant civilizations paused in uncertainty. Humanity had spoken, and the message was unmistakable. They were prepared, and they would not be underestimated. Yet humanity still did not strike. For weeks, fleets sent to probe human space simply vanished. Entire squadrons, hundreds of ships, disappeared without a trace. Scanners returned no signals, no debris, no signs of battle. Where once there had been confidence, there was now unease, whisperings of a force operating beyond known physics and beyond imagination. Council delegates huddled in secret chambers, attempting to analyze the reports. Every theory they proposed collapsed under the evidence. Navigation data showed ships had been intercepted and destroyed, but no conventional weapons had fired. Sensors recorded energy fluctuations inconsistent with any known technology. Witnesses spoke of human fleets appearing and vanishing as though they moved not through space, but alongside it. Speculation ran rampant. Perhaps they have mastered the void itself, one delegate whispered. Perhaps their reach extends beyond what any of us can comprehend. Across the galaxy, lesser species began to panic. Outposts sent urgent messages, only to find the humans were already aware of their presence, waiting, calculating, ready. Some species quietly their forces, fearing encounters they could not predict. Traders rerouted shipments. Colonies fortified themselves preemptively. The very fabric of galactic interaction had shifted. And in the Council, a realization settled like a stone in water. Humanity was no ordinary species. They were not merely clever, adaptable, or resilient. They were something else entirely. Something that could turn every expectation against the one who dared to underestimate them. Meanwhile, humanity continued its preparations quietly. Earth and its colonies had no need to flaunt their power. The knowledge of their capability was already enough to send ripples of uncertainty across the stars. Scientists refined their fleets, engineers tested experimental technology, and strategists coordinated movements that no enemy could predict. Every encounter, every skirmish, every disappearance had been calculated to teach the galaxy a single lesson. Humanity was not to be underestimated. In the void, surviving alien fleets shared stories that grew more elaborate with every telling. Ships claimed to be ambushed by phantoms, only to find no human presence afterward. Sensors recorded pulses that seemed to communicate intent, as if the humans could anticipate thought itself. Every sighting reinforced one conclusion. The humans were no longer a fledgling species. They were a force of nature, honed by struggle and sharpened by centuries of adversity. Even within the Council, factions began to fracture. Some argued for immediate diplomacy, fearing that any direct confrontation could provoke humanity in ways no one could foresee. Others demanded preparation for total war, convinced that the humans' capabilities could not be tolerated. But no faction could agree on a plan, for none could predict the outcome of provoking a species so unpredictable, so relentless, so unyielding. And so the galaxy fell into a great silence. It was not the silence of surrender. It was the silence of respect, caution, and fear. Ships waited in orbit, sensors strained for movement, and messages traveled across light years to verify. Every corner of known space felt the tension. Humanity had not struck, yet the shadow of their power stretched farther than any fleet or weapon. On Earth, the leaders watched the reactions quietly. They had done nothing beyond revealing what they were capable of. But the lesson was clear. The galaxy now understood that humanity had survived for reasons beyond mere luck or cunning. They had endured because they had learned to adapt, to anticipate, to turn even adversity into advantage. And that lesson alone had already begun to shift the balance of power. In the council chambers, one elder species summed it up simply. They have awakened, and we do not yet know what that awakening means. Across the void, the watchers waited, and humanity, patient as always, continued its quiet vigilance. For the great silence was not empty. It was a warning, and it was only the beginning. The largest armada in galactic history had gathered on the edge of human-controlled space. Thousands of warships, each capable of destroying entire colonies, assembled in precise formations, their weapons primed and waiting. Every species that had ever doubted humanity now braced for what they assumed would be a cataclysmic battle. But humanity did not strike first. From Earth's orbit, thousands of human vessels slipped silently into position, hidden by experimental cloaking technology. The fleet was vast, its size unmatched by any other in the known galaxy, yet it remained unseen until the moment the humans chose to reveal themselves. Every ship, every squadron, every defensive platform had been carefully calculated for this standoff. This was not a war of impulse. It was a demonstration of preparedness, precision, and discipline. The Council's commanders waited, expecting the humans to panic or retaliate under pressure. Instead, there was patience, calm, confidence. Then, as one coordinated moment, the human fleet revealed itself. Thousands of vessels emerged from the shadows, gleaming with new designs, weapon arrays that conventional understanding, and formations that shifted faster than sensors could track. The sheer scale of it stunned the galaxy. Communications erupted. The Council demanded action. Smaller species called for retreat. None dared fire first. For the first time, a species had forced the galaxy into hesitation. Humanity's leaders addressed the assembled armada directly, not through threats, but through clarity and purpose. We do not seek to conquer, we do not seek conflict, but we will defend ourselves, we will defend our people, our homes, and our freedom. This is the moment you must choose, coexistence on equal terms or challenge us at your own peril. The message echoed across the void, carrying the weight of centuries of struggle, ingenuity, and survival. Every word was deliberate, every pause intentional. The galaxy heard not arrogance but unyielding resolve. And in that silence, every species understood what humanity had become. Attempts to test the fleet, scans, reconnaissance, minor attacks, failed instantly. Human defenses anticipated every maneuver. Missiles were intercepted with precision, electronic countermeasures neutralized targeting systems, and smaller ships were rerouted before they could pose a threat. Humanity had turned anticipation into a weapon, and the Armada could do nothing against it. The Council realized, too late, that this was not simply technology or numbers. This was instinct honed over centuries, a species perfected through endurance. Humanity had turned struggle into skill, adversity into strategy, and fear into resolve. Some commanders proposed retreat, while others argued for negotiation. The Council itself fractured under the weight of indecision. For the first time a unified authority had no answer. Every choice seemed inadequate, every move potentially fatal. In the void, smaller fleets watched, paralyzed. They had believed in superiority, in invincibility. Now they understood they were outmatched, not by overwhelming firepower alone, but by a species whose every action was informed by experience, cunning, and survival instinct. And yet humanity did not strike. The human fleet held position, unwavering, a monument to discipline and patience. This was a war that could have begun but did not. The message was clear. Confrontation was unnecessary if respect and equality were granted. Across the stars, fear spread quietly. Civilizations began to reconsider alliances and conflicts, realizing that no empire could challenge humans without incurring unimaginable risk. The balance of power had shifted in a single, silent moment. Finally, the Council sent a delegation, not armed, not demanding, but seeking dialogue. Humanity received them without fanfare, without display of superiority. The choice had been offered, and the galaxy had accepted it. Coexistence was possible, but only on terms of respect and parity. The war that had seemed inevitable never came. There was no bloodshed, no devastation. Instead, the galaxy experienced a lesson older than empires. Power is not defined solely by fleets or weapons, but by discipline, foresight, and the will to endure. And as the human fleet quietly backed to Earth's orbit, the galaxy understood a simple truth. A species that had survived of adversity, that had endured every trial imaginable, could not be challenged lightly. The war that never was had ended before it began. And the silence that followed was not empty, it was reverent. The galaxy had paused, holding its breath, as the humans unveiled their true strength. Fleets that had once moved confidently through the void now lingered, hesitant, unsure. The silence of the stars was no longer empty. It was full of awareness, respect, and an unspoken caution. With the Council fractured and its authority weakened, humanity stepped forward. Not as conquerors, not as tyrants, but as equals, demanding recognition for what they had earned through centuries of struggle and survival. Every species watched closely, uncertain whether this new power would bring destruction or opportunity. Earth's leaders broadcast a message across the void, this time not merely declaring their strength, but outlining their vision. We seek not dominance, we seek partnership. The galaxy has much to teach us, and we have much to offer. Respect, equality, and collaboration must guide our relations. Any who wish to coexist are welcome, any who wish to challenge us must understand the consequences. The response was swift. Many civilizations, long constrained by the Council's hierarchy, stepped forward. They approached not with fleets of war, but with diplomats, emissaries, and traitors. The prospect of aligning with humanity, strong, disciplined, and unbowed, was irresistible to those seeking protection and opportunity alike. Meanwhile, the Council itself struggled to maintain control. Its former authority had been broken not by fire, not by conquest, but by revelation. Humanity had shown that strength was not measured solely in ships or weapons, but in endurance, ingenuity, and the will to act when the time was right. The galaxy began to shift. Borders were redrawn, alliances reshaped. Species that had once dismissed humans as primitive now reconsidered every assumption. Trade routes reopened under new agreements, joint research projects blossomed, and cultural exchanges began to spread humanity's influence, not through force, but through respect earned by survival and capability. Even the most cautious civilizations came to understand that humanity's rise was not a threat to existence itself, but a challenge to mediocrity. A species that had overcome every imaginable trial now offered a model for what determination and adaptation could achieve. Yet humanity remained cautious. They did not dominate, they did not impose. They had seen what unchecked power could do to a species, and they had chosen a different path. Their fleets remained vigilant, their colonies fortified, but their actions were deliberate, measured, and transparent. They had learned the value of restraint as keenly as the value of strength. In the quiet of the void, a new era began. Humanity became a central hub of knowledge, innovation, and diplomacy. Their fleets patrolled not for conquest, but for protection. Their scientists shared discoveries selectively, advancing technology while ensuring no species would be left defenseless against themselves. Humanity's influence spread quietly but decisively, reshaping the galaxy's understanding of power and responsibility. In council chambers that had once dictated the fate of the stars, a humbled few now debated how to coexist with this new reality. Their decisions carried less weight. The era of unchecked authority was over. And on Earth, humanity watched, ever vigilant. They had unveiled their power, and in doing so had silenced the galaxy, not through terror, but through undeniable capability and unyielding resolve. The silence that followed was not fear alone. It was recognition of a truth that could not be. A species forged in adversity, tempered by fire, and united in purpose had claimed its place among the stars. The galaxy was forever changed. Ancient empires reconsidered their histories, young civilizations looked to humanity for guidance, and the void itself seemed quieter, as if acknowledging that a new order had been established. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy with weapons. They had conquered it with patience, ingenuity, and endurance. They had endured every trial, mastered every challenge, and revealed a strength that no one could ignore. And as the stars shimmered in the endless darkness, one truth remained clear to all who listened. The future of the galaxy was no longer dictated by old powers. It belonged to those willing to endure, to adapt, and to rise above every obstacle. A lesson humanity had learned long ago, and now the galaxy would never forget.